Welcome back to the Leverage Living Podcast. We're living every night like it's a Friday and every morning like it's a Monday. How you doing today, Ryan?
Doing pretty well. Enjoying my holiday mug, Dunn Brothers roast.
Ooh, a Tim
Um,
Horton.
yeah, Tim
Hey?
Hortons mug. Little ode to Canada since none of us can get up there.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Dunn Brothers. Light, dark.
We got a hazelnut roast, so
Ooh,
yeah.
spoiler alert. That's what I'm doing too.
Oh boy,
I got a nice little mug too here.
nice.
Have a
Haven't
great
seen
day
you.
with a little taste on the bottom for you.
Wow, that one would be a hit around workplaces everywhere.
Nope. You keep that one at home.
The cubicles would be rolling.
Yep, for sure. All right, let's get us started with what
Okay.
happened last week.
So another choppy week for stocks. There were some big daily moves early in the week, but little change overall. It kind of seems that we're still trading on some of the main themes. So if we get a development on a vaccine like Moderna released recently, really good numbers, then we see the market react. So overall, the S&P and Dow were negative, just by a little bit, and the Nasdaq was slightly positive. So none of the major indexes moved more than 1% for the
Pretty
week.
even.
Yeah. We also saw the U.S. Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin Thursday said he's not going to extend the emergency lending programs that their agency has been running with the Federal Reserve. He claimed that this was already in the bill, so maybe this was slated to end at this time anyways. But the decision to curb the programs at the end of December is interesting because the economy certainly is still facing a lot of challenges with the latest spike in COVID. So
Sure.
hopefully that doesn't impact the market too much.
Yeah. And there's some small cap surge too for the second week in a row. The small cap stocks outperformed the broader market by a pretty wide margin. The Russell 2000 index, which is a small cap benchmark, that climbed more than 2%. That's a pretty significant gain there. And then at Friday's close, the index is up 23% from the recent low in September, at
Hey,
the end of September, like the 23rd.
haven't you been selling puts on the small cap index?
Yep, TNA.
Nice.
And then earnings wrap, our earnings season kind of came to an end. Well, I'll put the earnings calendar up for this coming week, but there isn't anything too spectacular that we're looking at for that one. Figures from the just completed quarterly earnings season show that the profits for the S&P companies fell an average of 6.6%. That's according to factset.com. That's the fourth largest quarterly decline since 2009. Healthcare posted the strongest earnings growth at the sector, rising 13%. So it's good to see with all the activity in the healthcare industry that they're filing in some money to work with.
Yeah, it just shows, and we've kind of spoken about the theme. It's a case of the haves and the have-nots with the pandemic. So you have some industries that are benefiting tremendously from what's going on, and then some, oils,
Mm-hmm.
industrials that aren't doing so well.
For sure.
So let's talk about Bitcoin too. The price keeps rallying. It was up about 14% for the week, and that is on the tails of about 160% run year to date. It kind of it hadn't been doing a whole lot in the beginning of the year, or I guess throughout most of the year, but since October, it's up about 75%. And
That is crazy.
when we started, when we initially suggested buying Bitcoin and adding it to your portfolio this year, the price was around 13,000. So we've seen a healthy spike since we dropped the suggestion.
Very low 13s. Yeah.
And also we just had some retail sales numbers come out entering the holiday seasons. They were mixed a little bit. So retail sales inched up 0.3% in October relative to September, marking a slowdown in the positive momentums in the recent months. So we had seen that number climbing more. Electronics and home improvement supplies showed the big sales gains, and clothing and department stores were down. So, if you think about the theme of that ETF that I had mentioned on one of our last episodes, I think 2 episodes ago,
Yep.
CLIX, that's going to benefit on both of those trends. So
Interesting thing to keep an eye on. Moving on from that, when Ryan and I were talking about what we're going to talk about today, the two main sentiments that we had were the EV market and then Bitcoin. Those are two of the more popular things that are going on right now. So what I wanted to do was just, for all the listeners, just go through and talk about some of the SPACs and potential up and coming EVs to keep an eye on. So
I'm actually happy you're doing this, because you keep a much better eye on the overall EV market than I do. So, I follow a couple of them, but I'm looking forward to actually kind of, there's just been so much activity. I think just a good debrief recap from you will be really helpful for me too.
Yep, that's what I'm just going to go through each one, couple facts, and if there's something you like, you can jump in and give your 2 cents about it. So starting off, Electric Last Mile Solutions is in talks to go public through merger with Forum Merger 3. That's the same company that brought Tattooed Chef public through Forum Merger 2. That company has a 675,000 square foot production plant in Indiana with capacity to produce 100,000 vehicles annually. So for those of you familiar with NEO, that's more than NEO currently. The lithium-ion battery maker QuantumScape, I know you've heard of this one, is set to combine with Kensington Capital. The shares of KCAC are up more than 30% over the last 2 weeks. So keep an eye on that one. You're in on that one, aren't you, Ryan? A little bit?
Well, I did actually sell that one.
Okay.
I think I know I got in. I think I sold it for a little bit of a gain, but the reason I remember is I actually had just saw. So if you've participated in a SPAC, you'll realize that you get to vote on the business combination. And I just saw I had that proxy vote for my corporate shareholder actions in my Fidelity account recently. So that's how I remember.
Gotcha. And they won't actually start having revenue until I believe 2022, 23 at the end
Well,
of
yeah,
20.
I mean, if
It's going to
that
be a
should be a
while.
multi-billion-dollar company if they got revenue coming in 3 years.
Nicola. And then this is one of my favorites, Canoe, ticker CNOO, is looking to, that's what it will be once it merges with this SPAC, which is Hennessy Capital, currently trading under ticker HCAC. Canoe plans to offer the EV subscription only base for its production in 2021. So that's coming up pretty quick here. And then they want to use the common skateboard platform across their models. So what that means is they have a patent for, they call it a skateboard, which is their chassis. They're electric. They hook the batteries up, and it's 4 main moving parts, and each one controls a wheel. And they can just drop a vehicle body right onto this skateboard, and then it's going to be a rental model.
I
So it's pay as you need.
couple comments on this one.
Mhm.
One is I'm not sure how many have done this skateboard chassis, but I think that, so Bryce and I have been talking that Rivian would be huge if it decided to come public via a SPAC, and definitely seems like that's the preferred route for the electric vehicle. But I think Rivian gained some notoriety as being a serious player because they were one of the first with this skateboard model for the chassis.
Yeah.
If I'm remembering correctly, I think even Ford was going to license some of that technology from them. So
It's a really smart way to go, I think, personally.
yeah, it's interesting to see the different ways some of these electric vehicle companies are innovating. I mean, it's ridiculous just to think that obviously people didn't just start working on these this year. So it's ridiculous to say, okay, there's been this many companies working on an electric car or vehicle.
Yeah.
The other comment I had about Canoe, and I'm sure we'll populate a picture of what their vehicle looks like, but I kind of call it the Crocs of the electric vehicle, built for comfort.
I like that. Yeah, and you guys will see why right now. I got to remember that I just said that. So moving on from there, this one is one of my favorites as well. XL Fleet is aiming to go public through merger with Pivotal Investment Corporation, ticker PIC. That's anticipated to, or it's anticipated enterprise value of about $1 billion right now. Combined, they're looking to send more vehicles onto the road than Helion, Nikola, and what was the third one? There's another big EV.
I can't remember.
Anyways, those three big ones combined is going to roughly be half of what XL Fleet is putting out. So
Wow.
keep adding there, and then
And
some
that's
of
one that we'd owned for a while. I can't recall if we'd brought up the ticker on an episode or not, but
PIC.
yeah, I'm sure we have. But it was trading really close to. Now, I hope everyone's watched our, what is a SPAC episode. If you haven't, go look at the deep dive. But they are trading really close to their net asset value.
Mm-hmm.
And it's still, I think it's over 11 now. Is that right?
It's at 11.04 last time I checked.
So yes, it's above a bit now, but you still have a pretty hardy floor there if you wanted to. I mean, this is, you got to kind of pick the management companies that you like and then the underlying companies. And this is one that does seem quite promising. And I believe you've seen pretty recently one of their trucks on the road.
Yep. I have. And that news I just brought up about those three main companies having about half the vehicles on the road as PIC, that came out yesterday. So you can expect a little jump through the coming week, I assume.
Yeah.
Because I had no idea they were that large until that information came out.
Yeah.
And then some of their notable partners include Coca-Cola, Verizon, FedEx, and then as well as they're going to be doing campus transportation for some of the more prestigious colleges in the country, notably Harvard and Yale. Heard of those?
I mean, this company doesn't make trucks out of a log cabin. It trades on the New York Stock Exchange. Ever heard of it?
Buckle up. And then this one came out this week. I had never heard of it before, but they look pretty promising. Very cool logo, cool vehicles. Is the startup Arrival? They're going to be trading under ARVL ticker. Confirmed that they are entering the definitive combination agreement with CIIG Merger Corp. Their ticker is currently CIIC. Just kind of confusing. I don't know why they chose that one, but that shot up 60% over the last week. So we're going to be seeing a cool off period here for sure. That hype is definitely probably come and gone. So we'll accumulate on dips. I think that's what I'm going to do anyway. And then there's an electric battery maker, Microvast, in merger talks with the blank check company Tuscan Holdings, ticker THCB. They have reportedly progressed to advanced levels, and I know you, I think, are going to talk about this a little later as well.
Yes.
Okay, awesome. And then obviously our boy ChargePoint, SBE, that's drawing closer and closer to its reverse merger. They want to do it before the end of 2020. So they're really moving quick with that one. That one was up a lot. I didn't put a percentage for what that one was up over the last week, but I will tell you right now that it was.
I know since we
53% last week.
Sorry, how much last week?
53%.
Okay, so just a minor week.
Yep, just another day.
You and I got into Switchback around the same time. We did a TikTok video. We've talked about it on several episodes. We are both up over 90% on the underlying stock. So that one's been a good place to be. Yep. And that one, it's my favorite of the EV space. So
yeah, what was we were talking to one of our buddies this week. What did he say about the racetrack and the horse? Why own the horse when you can own the racetrack? Something like that.
Yeah. And that's exactly. I was trying to think of that analogy too. I'm like, I'm going to butcher this.
I hope I didn't butcher it, but it makes sense in my head.
But yeah, why own a horse when you can own the racetrack? And that's the concept behind this one that makes it so appealing.
Shout out to you, Mike. And then this one, I don't know much about this one, but I saw it was on the list, so it'll be something to dig further into, and for our listeners to keep on their radar too. But electric vehicle startup Faraday Future, heard of it? I'm sure you've heard of it, but I don't know anything about it. They confirmed recently that they're working on a deal to go public through a SPAC. So ear to the ear to the ground, see what you can come up with. Keep news open for that. And then let's see, I'll populate a graphic here that shows all the EV stuff that's gone through their mergers, and some of them include Nikola, that's down 8%. No one's surprised by that. But then Fisker Auto, that one's up 58% since June. Ride, so that is Lordstown Motors, they're up 166% since June. Helion, 150% since June, and Velodyne LiDAR is up 60% since then.
Wow.
And then you touched on it. Out of the SPAC world right now, we had Neo and Xpeng. They both went public via IPO route. So Lucid Motors, and then you touched on it, like I said, Rivian. They've been raising capital in the private market. So I don't know. There hasn't been news on either of them. It's just speculation at this point. I hope they both, at least one of them, at least goes through this back route. Just so
Yeah,
you can ground floor.
I'm a big fan of Rivian. We'll have to have
Likewise.
another tomato.
Comment down below, Rivian or Rivian, whatever you said.
I actually, I love the concept of the electric vehicle, and it certainly appears through where investor capital is going, not to GM and Ford. It's going to these EV companies. So it's definitely at the frontier of the automotive space. And for me, obviously Tesla's the one that we've all have come to know, and it's the one you can go to a dealership and buy. Rivian, I stumbled upon I think this summer, and I actually put a deposit down to buy one because it's really important to me to have a pickup or, a 4-wheel drive vehicle, something that I enjoy, and it's practical in the Midwest. So Rivian's
up right now. There you go.
Yeah. Rivian's pickup and their SUV they look really sweet. They have, I think, 400 plus mile range. And then obviously you have the insane acceleration with the EVs, and the other.
Oh yeah. A lot of torque.
Are those individual motors on the wheels. So you can turn, just like a skid steer, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. Very, very cool. And then over the last week, you mentioned Tesla. That's up 20%. Tesla actually, I wanted to touch on this. They're in the S&P 500 now.
Yep.
That was big news for the boys, and I think that's what propped up Neo, not propped up, but it accelerated Neo and Xpeng, I think, as well, because they're kind of just the whole China market as a whole is really focusing on these EVs. They have Xpeng, which I'll talk about in a second. And then Neo, which is the battery as a service company that we talked about in our last 2 weeks ago episode.
China's other advantage too is, they can use their crayons for the accounting and make up whatever numbers they want. So they can take a hot sector and really make it,
just make it go boom. So like I said, I was going to mention Xpeng a bit here. With that big run up that they had, they went up 34% last week. So going into this next week, I'm going to be selling a put on Xpeng. I set it in for the 48.5 strike price, $48.50 strike price, expiring next Friday, November 27th. With the volatility, you can see really good premiums with these stocks. And if it goes down, that's what I want it to do. I want 100 shares of it. So perfect time to use your leverage to your advantage. And then a couple more where GIK and NGA, those are the ticker symbols. GIK is rumored to be merging with Lightning Motors. These are what Bloomberg talked about this last week. And then NGA rumored to be merging with Lion Electric. So Bloomberg usually are right on the money with those.
Yeah.
So taking a swing, and then we'll be adding PIC on dips coming up. So
nice.
That's what I'll be doing.
Well, I'll talk about a couple that we've mentioned that I'm still in, and some recent trades. So
Mhm.
MJ is one. I mentioned that. Did you pick any of that ETF up, the cannabis
I
ETF?
did. I did.
Okay. So we picked that up kind of as a secular play before the election. Um, and I still think that, over the next couple of years, that's a good space to be in. So I'm still
Mhm.
holding MJ. It's had a pretty good run, probably up 20% on it, but still one to hold. And I don't want to pick an individual. I actually wish there was an EV index. Bryce, you brought that up in our text, because just like these individual cannabis or marijuana companies, a lot of them do trade on hype, or upcoming business ventures. That kind of bugs me a little bit, I guess. So I don't want to pick, the wrong one that isn't even a real company. So it's just, I would prefer an EV or
I was going to mention that because with Biden getting elected, we saw Aurora Cannabis go up like 134%.
yeah,
And then like Tilray, Afria, Crone, all those ones, they went up, 50, 60%. You just don't know. They
no,
just jump so quick and they fall so quick. It's very, very hype based and volatile.
yeah.
So yeah, MJ is the place to be as far
The
as that goes.
the
Taking
other company that we had mentioned a couple times, and it's actually the biggest holding in my Roth, is MindMed. That is a company that is just, I believe, completing phase 2 trials for psychedelics, psilocybin, to essentially work with a number of mental challenges that people have, anxiety, depression. A lot of it's a broad application thing, and it's been around for thousands of years. People using mushrooms. So I think it has a lot of potential in terms of its use cases, as well as the company is trying to get on the NASDAQ. So that means it would be on a larger exchange. It would be available to those of you who just use Robinhood. I own it in Fidelity. But since we dropped that tip, I think I'm up 64% on that one.
Yeah.
Um,
That one's getting a lot of hype in a bunch of different spaces, especially for being something that's not on Robinhood.
yeah.
That's pretty crazy.
And I texted in our group text on Friday, because it has just ran so much. I'm like 64%. I might just take a little off the table. It moves, gyrates quite a bit, so I'll just try to reestablish a position right away again, at a lower price, and it's in my Roth, so no tax consequences. So for some reason, I don't know if I get distracted by a million things during the day. So the order just didn't go through. And then I checked again at the end of the day, and the stock was up like 14% from where I wanted to sell it. So I got lucky there. Usually it's the other way around, where the order will go through and then it will. um,
Overall,
so
good week though. Yeah, it was a good one.
yeah, this was just we kind of talked about the fun of investing with your friends, and
Mhm.
getting a group of some like-minded individuals that enjoy this type of stuff. And so for myself and Joey and Bryce, and Corey, we're all in a group text together and have similar holdings. So this is one of the best weeks for all of us. So when you're all winning, the gifts start flying, GIFs or gifts, the memes start flying.
It's noticeably more active on weeks like we just had than weeks a couple
Oh yeah,
like back in October.
it's just crickets in October.
That gosh darn September setback going into the October
Yeah,
aftermath.
the
Ugh.
thumbs just start buzzing when the boys are doing good. um, so we touched on Bitcoin. That's had a good run. And since we initially mentioned it and established a position around 13,000, I've been cost averaging up, I guess, but I have probably about 6 different limit buy orders in on Robinhood to catch some of those dips. We did see it eclipse 19,000 on Friday. So
Yeah.
a lot of momentum there. I also started a position in Litecoin. So essentially just like electric vehicles, it's not just going to be a Bitcoin specific rally. You're going to see all the cryptocurrencies go up. So I just
Rising tide floats all boats.
exactly. So Litecoin, Bitcoin is approaching and/or has exceeded its prior all-time high.
Mm-hmm.
Litecoin can go up probably about another 200%. So
What's it at now for per coin? Is it like
let me take a
300?
peek.
I don't remember. I looked a while ago, but
So Litecoin is at,
ticker LTC.
yep, LTC. It's at $82.
Oh,
Um,
oh, okay.
so yeah, I purchased about 36 of those and then have about 1 Bitcoin. So um, when I initially got into cryptos, I this was like etched into my brain. I purchased my first Litecoin for $14. Um, my first Bitcoins were $77. Or sorry, my first Ethereum
Okay.
was $88. The first time I did purchase Bitcoin was $77. Um,
Jeez.
I didn't
I do
hold those
remember you.
positions, so I'm not.
I do remember you telling me about Ethereum like what 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Like, yeah,
Um,
there's this new thing, Ethereum. It's kind of like Bitcoin. And I'm like, okay.
oh yeah. The I think it was in 2017 is when they really like went crazy, and that was just fun times
Yeah.
because I
Bitcoin, what was the all-time high for Bitcoin then? Was it 18.5,
yeah, it's
20
around
ish?
19, close to that. But, Ethereum, I started buying that in the 80s. That got over $1,000.
And then I just looked now, it's at 534
Yeah.
as of right now, this instant. But
Um, but I had, and that was, years ago, I wasn't as well established. And I remember I was trading on this Chinese cryptocurrency exchange, and I had purchased like,
no red flags at all there.
no, none. I purchased this one called Tron, and
Oh yeah.
it went up 700% in a matter of days since I purchased it. Like it was bananas.
What was the price of the coin or whatever at the time?
It
Do
was
you
like
remember?
in the pennies.
Oh geez.
But it was like a wave. We rode it and then it crashed.
Yeah.
But
Try out for Dogecoin.
you always enjoy the ride. Okay, let me get back on track here. So Switchback Energy, we talked about that one a lot. Bryce and I are both over 90% return. Um, even though I love the company, love the long-term potential, I think that's a little
Yeah.
spicy. So I sold.
Especially with the SPAC, like we see like the hype, and then it cools down, and then
Yeah,
once it gets closer to merger, it'll start to creep up again, and then for some reason it dips after they merge, and then it kind of just steadily creeps after that. But that's what we've
yeah.
seen with Helion, Fisker, Lordstown has been mostly up for the majority of the time. But yeah, it's kind of the general wave that we see with these.
So for Switchback Energy, just I didn't want to sell for a couple of reasons. One, like I said, long-term holding for me. Two, short-term capital gains. So I sold call options at a $35 strike price.
Mm-hmm.
And it was about $194 per contract, and those expire December 18th. So, it built me a nice floor essentially in
Yeah.
terms of, or a nice buffer if the stock
Mhm.
does retreat a little bit, like I anticipate it will. Um, so if it does come down, I can buy those calls back, close them out, and I'll make, whatever in premium. But if it keeps going up, I'm capped just above $35 a share, which,
Yep.
would be well over 100% run anyways. So
And
I'd be,
those SPACs have, for the most part, a monthly expiration. So, I mean, with more established stocks, you can go week by week. But with these SPACs, so on November 20th, which is this last Friday, I had like 8 calls expire that day. So I have more to call up for, and then the next one, like you said, December 18th. So I'll do the same thing with SPE. See if I doubt it'll go up that much because that'd be 300% gain. It
yeah.
gets up to 35. But
um,
if it does, I'd be more than happy to take that and run it into PIC, something else like that. But,
and for digital turbine apps, that's one we've spoken about frequently.
mhm.
Um, that had a great run this last week too. It was up just on Friday alone about 8%. So I sold some. It's $40.50 a share, and my cost basis is about $6. So I sold some $55 strike call options. So I sold a handful of those, and each of them were over $100 in premium. It was $140 actually per contract and premium. So if this thing keeps running to $55,
It's gonna be a sad day when you have to sell those bad boys.
yeah, if this, and I have till January 15th. So if this runs to 55 by then, that will just be absurd for me in terms of, getting in for $6. So
Yeah, yeah.
to me, it builds in a little buffer, where I can, I'll pick up some money on the downside and don't have to generate, a short-term capital gain. So, um, next, Nautilus, spoke about that one a little bit. They reported wonderful earnings. A lot of people have been buying the gym equipment at home. So you've seen Nautilus and Peloton rocket. Nautilus is one that I initially got in for $1.80 a share. Credit to Mike Sather for that call, but I sold after I over doubled my money and then got back in. But they had great earnings, and then they sold off after earnings because their earnings were announced right around the time we got some of the positive vaccine news. So the market tries to, use
Yeah.
the crystal ball and trade on future news. So
Nautilus is kind of inverse to what you see with coronavirus. So
yeah, so now that, I think we obviously have some time between everyone being vaccinated and this thing being gone and now. So Nautilus, I think I like the story still, and strong earnings, and should be a great holiday season for them.
Right.
Next, Tucson Holdings. So this one really interesting. I initiated a position on the rumor of the merger with Microvast, and it was trading right around net asset value. I think I got in around $10 and I don't know, 20 some cents.
Yep.
The net asset value per share is $10.22. So the worst you could do, I think it closed maybe around 1037 or something. So you could maybe lose 15 cents a share, if you have the corporate action and you were a shareholder at the right time.
It actually it closed at yeah, 10, what did you
1030.
say? 1037.
Okay.
Yeah, so you're
So I have
can't lose.
no. So here's what I have, and I'll throw up this offer term so people can see what this looks like. So I have, as a stockholder, an option to vote on a proposal to approve and adopt the agreement of a business combination at the special meeting on 10/30. So that was last month. So it's offering me the right to redeem my shares for cash. The approximate price per share is $10.22. That's a trust value. So if I want to get the shares for, and I think that was a misprint in the date because my cutoff date is November 30th. So that's why I bought thousands more of shares, because I have 10 days where I can't lose money, and, not more than 10 cents a share or whatever. But if this thing takes off this week, I mean, it's like a free call option. So yeah, this quickly became one of my biggest holdings. So if the stock runs this week, I'll sell, get a nice gain. If it doesn't, and it's still close to the net asset value, I'll just sell and, walk away flat. And if it drops a lot, I'll redeem, and the company will essentially take my shares and give me $10.22. So
That's what I
win-win-win.
like most about the SPAC game right now. It's just you can compound pretty handily.
Yeah.
It goes from play to play and rumor to rumor, hype to hype.
Yeah. I mean, and we kind of talked about this a little more with Sam on, like, the biggest thing in investing is managing risk and obviously opportunity costs. But when we look at these SPACs, especially ones that trade below that net asset value, and if you have some faith in the corporate structure, I'm thinking of Shamat's IPOC. I mean, I think I have $40,000 in that one now or something. And when I get the option to redeem, I can redeem for more than my cost basis. And if Clover Health picks up, I'll make a ton of money. So
Yeah.
I like
Does he
those.
have a date set for that, or has there been any speculation about when the
I haven't
merger?
seen anything on that yet.
I haven't either. But
That's all I have for
then
stock.
I know yesterday you went and looked at a fourplex. in, was it Minneapolis?
Yeah. It was near
What'd you find there?
it's near Uptown. So a fellow investor that I'm acquainted with in Minneapolis kind of told me about the deal. So I think we would purchase it together.
Okay.
So I drove and looked at it, and it's a lot of learning for me because I don't have any exposure to that market right now. Very different variable than where I currently own properties.
Mhm.
Um, Seems to be a fast appreciating market. Rents are crazy. I mean, I have some one bedroom product in the other market I own, and maybe 550 a month or so.
When you say
600.
other market, do you just mean like smaller town,
Yeah,
different?
yeah.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
um, but here it's fourplex, four one bedroom units, and
Mhm.
I've asked a couple people, and they're like, well, maybe 1395. I'm like, okay, well, it's just hard for me to comprehend almost, but um, different market, different opportunities. So I'm trying to do
Mhm.
a lot of learning there, but the property would be $450,000 purchase price.
Okay.
Um, and I'll give you a little comparison of why I really have to do more research. So I purchased property in a smaller town for 230,000, generates $4,700 a month in rents. Okay. This property is going to be 450,000. And I'm hoping that, for around that 1395 or probably a little lower, I like to try to be kind of conservative, but maybe I'll generate 5,000 a month in rent. So
Wow.
230 for 4,700, 450 for, just over 5,000. But um, you got to look at potential for asset appreciation too. And I think,
Right.
a growing metro like Minneapolis, it's been a really attractive real estate market. So, and then I'm also looking at, the individual that has talked to me about the deal, successful real estate investor, and someone I would love to learn from and kind of see what his strategy has been. So for me, I ran the numbers on it last night, and I can kind of, just run through what
Yeah,
the
please do.
what the scenario looks like. So I try to be conservative
Mhm.
in my analysis. The biggest thing that's kind of bugging me, honestly, is so if I go in with somebody else, it's $450,000 purchase price. We need to put 20% down for investment property financing. So plus closing costs. So I'm guessing I typically, as a rule of thumb, will use about 2% of purchase price
Okay.
for closing costs. So, because I mean, if you do a loan, it's a 1% origination fee typically. So you got 1% there, and then 1% for title fees, appraisals, things like that.
Yeah. That's
Um,
it.
so now we got 2%. That's $9,000. So $4,500 for me plus 10% down, which would be about 45,000. So it's 50 grand. I would have to pony up to purchase. So the number one and most pressing question to me is, and it's especially more tough to answer because there's something in psychology called recency bias. So we just
Mhm.
had a great week in stocks. Do I want to pull $50,000 out and allocate it to real estate? So also, I have to incur some short-term capital gains, other things like that with selling
Right.
stock. So that's the biggest hurdle for me to get over mentally. But we
Sure.
go through the numbers. Money's cheap right now, so that makes it really appealing. I think I can get 3.375 a balloon note with about a 30-year am, so very appealing.
Cool.
And just to give the listeners some background, so when you buy your primary residence, most people 30-year fixed, your rate is X for 30 years. You never have to think about it again. When it
Mhm.
comes to commercial, it's balloon loans is what they're called. So I'll get a term of 5 years where this interest rate's fixed at 3.375, but the payment schedule will be a 30-year payment schedule. So you run the numbers on your mortgage calculator over 30 years, but at the end of 5 years, I either have to pay off the note or refinance. Um, so it's not really too daunting, but we're at a point of lower interest rates.
Mhm.
So if something crazy were to happen, I think it would have to be crazy for all of a sudden interest rates. We had to refinance that at 5% or something. That changes your equation when you
Definitely
have
huge.
have it fixed for 5 years. So one thing to think of. But so I try to be really conservative in my analysis. So monthly rental income, I put at $4,400. So that's 1,100 a unit, as opposed to, a couple of people have said you can maybe get around 1,400. We have taxes. Those are about just under 7,000 a year, 566 a month. Insurance, I estimated at about 200 a month. Utilities, I think we pay heat, 335. Maintenance cost, usually you want to have 1 month's rent dedicated to maintenance. So I put around 400 a month. Miscellaneous stuff that comes up, $100 a month. Putting money aside for a CapEx budget. So if we have to do siding, shingles, whatever, 8% property management, I put at 8%, and then a vacancy loss. Typically I do 15% vacancy loss in the smaller market, but this is a very appealing area of town. You're familiar with Uptown in Minneapolis. I mean, very desirable area. I put 5%, so not as conservative as I typically am, but
realistic.
From what I've learned, that it may not be too unrealistic.
Right.
So if we have that scenario, we're only going to cash flow maybe $280 a year, per month. So that'd be about 3,400 a year. So
280 a year is not.
Yeah. So, your one thing you look at when you're evaluating real estate deals, cash on cash return, because the bulk of the money to buy the property isn't coming from me. It's coming from a bank. I don't care what return they get on their money. They get their interest rate. So out of the $50,000 I'm going to put in, what return am I going to get on that? And that comes from the cash flow. Because essentially I'm buying an income stream. So it's just like if I'm buying a dividend.
Asset.
So if I put 50,000 in AbbVie, that's about a 6% dividend, right? So that might be kind of on par with this. But cash on cash for the whole deal is going to be about 3.4% at 1,100 a month rents. So principal payment is about $7,000 a year. We'll pay down on that note. So nothing too crazy, but
is it move-in ready? Is it?
It's already rented. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Cool. Already completely rented. And right next door to it is a big brand new luxury apartment. So, when the fringe group in that place just decides that it's not that cool to have a place for your pets to hang out and the rooftop grilling, they can move over to my shithole next door.
There you go. Rising tide, right?
Rising tide. We'll take that riffraff. So the most appealing thing for me is the potential price appreciation on the property. We are buying it off market, and I pulled a comps last night, and comps, so I should, I guess, specify comps are comparable sales. And that's, when you value an asset. So if you're going to value Lordstown Motors or one of these other electric vehicles, your first look's going to be at Tesla. So what multiples are they trading at? What's the market willing to pay for a competitor? And that's what you look at in real estate too. So what's the market willing to pay for other properties that are similar in proximity? And according to that, it looked like this could be worth over $500,000. So depending on, the condition, I've got some pictures from one of the units, and I went and drove and did an exterior look myself. So, we've said before, you make your money on the buy. So we might buy it for $450 and it could appraise for $500. That's not too crazy. So that's the potential for appreciation on the asset. Plus, I really want to diversify my real estate holdings to different markets and have a lot of respect for the individual I may end up buying this with. So forming a relationship with him would be very valuable to me too. So
very cool. Very cool.
Yeah. So I'll let we'll keep the podcast updated if something moves along, and I'll share as much as I can. So it can be a real-time buying experience for everybody that hasn't been through this before.
Yep. We'll live vicariously through you.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to get everyone's phone numbers too, because there's going to be maintenance calls. So that's a great learning experience for everybody.
Oh no. So I think that'll do it for this week's episode. It's pretty good. We went through a lot of things. I like hearing you talk about the real estate market because it's new to me, and I'm sure it's new to a lot of our
Yeah.
younger audience that might be listening to this. So a couple listener questions we have for next week. What do you want us to cover on our next deep dive episode? We did one about SPACs, all about what those are, what you can expect, and exactly how they go through. And then who do you want us to interview next? If
Yeah.
there's anybody that you guys want to see us talk to in this realm, you let us know. Send us an email or put it in the comments below. What's our email address again? leverageliving@gmail.com.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Is it Leverage Living Podcast or Leverage Living?
Um,
Why would we know?
yeah.
Another thing,
Just
that
comment
might be
down below,
cool
make it easy.
if listeners want to do it. I kind of went through quickly the real estate thing, but I could do 30 minutes probably on evaluating this. So if anyone's interested, I'd be more than happy to do that. And I'll be, like I said, I have no reason not to be completely transparent about every single number. So doesn't bother me to share.
Cool. Like, share, and subscribe. We're going to put our Webull and Robinhood links down below. If you guys haven't started yet, click those links. We'll get a free stock. You'll get a free stock. Everybody wins. Said it 3 times now. Rising tide floats all boats.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us.
Absolutely.
Next week. Cheers.
Cheers.